So one of the big issues at the moment is security of tenure and length of tenure. Obviously some people, particularly families, would want a longer tenure where perhaps young renters or flat sharers may want to stay for a shorter amount of time. How do you get that balance right?
There are lots of people settling in the private rented sector who do want more security and stability. That's why we're going to legislate to make the 3-year tenancy the norm. However, students and young professionals who don't want those 3-year tenancies can ask for a short-term tenancy if they want.
The other thing that ties in very strongly with security of tenure is rent controls. There are some countries where it works and some countries where it doesn't. Is it something you think we could do here, and how do you think it could work?
Well, we're not proposing rent control, despite what you might have read in the newspapers. Our policy is that the market and the tenant and the landlord in negotiation would set the initial rent, but in order to make that security meaningful, we want to avoid landlords then just hiking up the rent, which is essentially the same as evicting people if they can't afford a 10%, 20% increase in the rent. So we want to make sure that there is that ability to plan.
With around a third of MPs being landlords, do you think that brings something positive to housing policy in terms of a knowledge of the market, or do you think perhaps it can hinder housing policy sometimes?
I'm not a landlord. I suspect in some cases where there are colleagues that are good landlords, that might be a good thing, and they're aware of how difficult it is to make sure you get the legislation right, to make sure that tenants and landlords are protected in the way that you need them to be. Everybody who came in the 2010 intake, and some other MPs as well, are renting either in their constituency or in London. And so although we have an allowance to do that, we also face some of the problems. We see some of the unfairness of the system, and we see some of the standards and some of the things that people are trying to get away with.
It's widely accepted that we need to build around 250,000 new homes a year in the UK. It's going to be a huge challenge to do so. Meanwhile, there are around 19-20 million empty bedrooms in owner-occupied properties just in England. By raising the rent-a-room scheme tax allowance, we could potentially encourage people to rent some of those out and provide low-cost, affordable accommodation across the UK for people without needing to build at all. Is that something you think could work?
I would love to see what the evidence that you think there is out there for that. I mean, I do think that there certainly is a big role for your organisation, SpareRoom, and also more people perhaps renting out a spare room. I'm yet to see the evidence that this could have a big impact. Even if we could unleash a revolution in people letting out their own homes, I'm not entirely sure that that would substitute for the numbers that we need, because some owner-occupiers won't want to let out their homes, and some prospective tenants actually want the privacy of their own place.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly don't think that people taking lodges will fix the housing crisis, but there's definite ability there for it to take up some of the shortfall and provide an element in that jigsaw puzzle, because there is, as you say, no single policy that will sort this out. It's a generational change we need rather than in the term of the next parliament change.
There are many generations of people in our country worried about this, and we've all got housing experiences that we can talk about and touch on, and lots of the people who are owning homes now do worry about their kids and their grandkids, and I think that's not to be forgotten in the debate.
Thanks for coming in. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
It's been a great delight to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you.